the Evangelism and Assimilation 101 system. I mean, how are you going to, you've put a lot of emphasis on evangelism leading up to the launch. What systems are you going to have in place so that you're continually reaching out, not becoming inward focused, staying outward focused, reaching people? And then how are you going to assimilate the people who are now coming to your church, who came to the launch, who came to the weeks after that? How do you get them involved and plugged in and growing in your church?
So number 2 at the top of the page is Evangelism and Assimilation 101. Now, we have resources that deal with evangelism much beyond 101 and assimilation much beyond just the 101 stage. But just your initial evangelism systems, your initial assimilation system. And here's one of the big things you should know about assimilation. It's really hard to abbreviate. So be careful what you wrote down in that box, okay? Make sure you spelled it out, assimilation. And I know that's not the best word. And I know it sounds very sterile and technical and all that, but it's reaching people, that's evangelism. Keeping them is assimilation. And the next book I have out, hopefully by the fall, is going to be on this topic of assimilation. And here's some questions. We're not going to comment on these, but these are questions you should sit down with your launch team in the early days, and then with your staff and key volunteers once you're into weekly services, and you need to be ready to answer these.
Number one, how does someone explore or express a decision to follow Christ at our church? On a Sunday service, how would they let you know that they want to become a follower of Jesus?
And then what do we say, share, or give to a person who is making a first-time decision to follow Christ? Great evangelism question.
How can we help the new Christian get plugged into our church?
No dunking and dropping, in our church. How do we move someone from first-time guest to full-time member? Boy, that's a long question, huh? They start as a first-timer, and you eventually want them to become a member in your church. How do you do that? Well, that's the whole assimilation system in our mind.
Then how do we know who is a first-time guest each Sunday? How do we collect his or her contact information?
Are we making our services easy for a first-timer to attend? Does that person know where to enter, check in his or her kids, find their restroom, and so on? Is there good signage up at our church?
And how do we follow up with first-time guests? You see, these are questions that you don't just all of a sudden after you launch come up with those answers. During the launch process, you begin discovering you begin to discover what works best and begin laying out systems in these areas.
Yeah, and that's sort of evangelism assimilation 101, but very important first-year system.